You unlock this benefit with the key of Patreon. Beyond is another dimension. A dimension of thought. A dimension of speculation. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both waffle and substance. Of things and ideas. You've just crossed into the podcast zone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Trekking Through the Twilight Zone. And we are talking about the rise of the machines. Right, so this is, yes, a thing about machines. Julian, what were your thoughts on this episode?
Oh God. It has its moments. It's not a great episode, but there's a version of this episode that I love. It sticks with me in a way. I like the machines fighting him. But maybe that's just because I'm a Transformers guy.
Yeah.
That typewriter can turn into that car that's chasing him down. It's alive, and it's from Cybertron.
Yeah. See, you went to Transformers for the finale. I was like, shit, it's evil Herbie. Like, yeah, this episode's interesting. It's an odd one. In that this sophisticate, it has this thing again, which I find interesting. This 60s version of opulence and sort of the house that it has like cherubs on his mirror in the bathroom and all this other stuff. Fascinating. Yeah, it's horrible.
Bad taste.
I would love to see this in color. Like, I want to see what some of this looks like. But yes, there's some interesting bits and pieces in this. But basically, it's this idea we keep saying he's a horrible person, but then he's basically saying that all machines are terrible. And so they start to turn on him. Now, the question I have for you, just quickly, is do they turn on him first? Or is it his behavior that basically makes them turn on him?
Yeah, I mean, this is a chicken or the egg thing. I don't know. And I think this would be a better story if it were not such a dick. If it were like if we could think he's a paranoid guy. I feel like it resonates with sort of, I mean, you and I both have older parents and in-laws and whatnot. The problem of like people not being able to use technology, and it's like the phone made that call by itself. It deleted that message. No, it didn't. So I mean, there is some of that resonates with me, but I don't know the chicken or the egg. What came first? I don't know why he has to be such a dick.
No, because it doesn't really play into the plot. You can be this sort of like anti, like a Luddite, basically, anti-technology, without being an absolute dick to everybody else. Like the way he treats the repairman, like, because the repairman could be like, fine, next week, fix it yourself. I've got enough clients, like, do your own repairs. Because he explains it they list off like what he's had to come repair. He's like, well, you put your foot through the screen, and then I came last week and you tore the wires at the back of the TV. And he's like, I'm just fixing it. Like this, he's like, well, it didn't work properly, and I tried to fix it in a reasonable way. He's like, by putting your foot through the screen. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But even knowing that those machines, like the electric razor, is following him, I mean, presumably that's the first time, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he put the foot through the television because the television was, broadcasting messages of somebody on TV saying to hurt yourself or something, or to leave, as happens in this episode. Quite well done, by the way. But I felt so bad for that repairman, and even though we later find out that these machines have been misbehaving and it's not his fault, how are you not I mean, there's a special place in hell for people who treat those who make less money than them as not humans.
Yes.
And that just rankles me right away.
Yeah, he's vile. I mean, he says about his biography at one point. He says something to the repairman, which is contradictory, because you can have an entire chapter to yourself about the repairman, that I can't even remember, or something like that.
The most forgettable person.
The most forgettable person. I'm like, not going to be a very long chapter then, is it? Because you're not remembering anything. But he is.
But he's gratuitously mean.
Yeah, repeatedly. Like, his secretary leaves him, and then he tries to sort of catch up with people, and no one wants to meet him for dinner. Like,
Well, he calls the repairman an imbecile, and it's like, well, all right, I've known people who thought that every repairman was conning them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all you do is fiddle about, and that's $600. Okay, that I can buy, but he's not an imbecile. If you put your foot through the screen and he's made this thing work again, he's clearly not an imbecile. That's just mean, vindictive, awful shit.
Yeah, it's the fact he calls him back, because this is the thing I'm not sure about, because he says, I do like the line when he says, like, right, let us get on with the real larceny of the situation. Like, I did like that. The dialogue in it is fun at times, but the fact is, like, if he's put his foot through the television, he admits he doesn't like it and that he doesn't particularly watch it. So now I'm like, why have it repaired?
Mm-hmm.
Because he says that it costs more to repair it than the value of the item. So I'm like, just leave it then. Don't have one.
What are you watching? I get why he's got a phone. He doesn't need an electric razor, and he doesn't need a television. We see him watching a sort of dancer who's sort of like a Latin dancer. Sort of early, it's like Chiquita Banana sort of girl, avant le mot. But and then she sort of comes to the screen and says, get out. Yeah. Which is quite good. I quite like that little suspension of reality, and then back into the dance. And it's like, did I see that? But he doesn't need it, as you say. Why are you watching that?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a writer or something. You don't need this television.
No, and it's the same. It's the same with the typewriter. Like, they age him. He gets to he's 48 when in this episode they actually say his age. 48 in 1960. So he was born in sort of in the early part of the 20th century, right? Typewriters shouldn't be something newfangled. Like, they've been around for a long, long time. And so this idea when he says, like, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence with a quill pen, great. That was in that was in like the 1770s. Like, it's this thing of, like, even like if it is cutting edge technology, I can, like you say with sort of like, elderly grandparents or parents or whatever, you get that frustration. But for something that's been around for decades, like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, you're quite right. That's a good point about the typewriter. The electric razor, which I like it kind of chasing him down the stairs, Stephen King style. Like, everything could be a menace. That's a Stephen King story. I quite like it. I think it's done well with the special effects. But you don't need. Why do you even have an electric razor? I know people today who don't use an electric razor.
I don't. Yeah.
I've switched back and forth, but I mean, I wouldn't be lost without one. If you're the Luddite, why are you using one?
And how long is the cable that it's chasing him down the stairs? Like,
well, it can be unplugged and still work, just like the telephone, right?
Yeah.
The thing about Thomas Jefferson irritates me because she's just typed, what is it, like 30 pages in 3 hours?
In 3 hours, yeah.
Okay. So, good point about the quill, jerk off. You know how short the Declaration of Independence is? I mean, it was produced by a committee, kudos to Jefferson for his insight. But, this is 30 pages of whatever the hell it is.
On a typewriter without making mistakes.
Yes. Exactly.
So, yeah, I was pretty impressed. I don't know how many words that is a minute, but that's pretty good.
Right. Yeah, and she's helping you and obviously doing a good job of it. Yeah. So, again, you're just
yeah, because it's this interesting thing of, like, I don't know. This is one of those weird episodes that, like, again, like, it has a twist. Like, it has this sort of the Twilight Zone being the technology thing. But there's also this theme of loneliness. Again, like, his demeanor of being a dick has pushed everyone away. But then he's like, I don't want to be left alone. But it's not, he doesn't want to be left alone because it's not like Scrooge. This isn't like A Christmas Carol where he's going to learn the sort of error of his ways. He doesn't want to be left alone because he's scared of the house coming to get him.
Yeah.
And
right.
so I'm a bit like, okay, I don't know what. Like, is this again? This maybe I just need a motivation. Like, are they trying to punish him to make him better, or what? Like, it seems odd.
Machines come alive when we don't look, and they kill bad people. So I mean, that kind of goes against the horror of the episode, right? Like, I mean, I love that the car, first the parking brake, the emergency brake fails and it slides out, and then he's mean to everybody again. And he says, get off my property, and I'll enlist this officer. He doesn't even ask the officer. I mean, he's mean again. We don't really see him get that car back up, but eventually it's that car that kills him.
Gets him. I like he refers to him as an underpaid constable of the law. So he actually refers to him as being underpaid, which I thought was interesting compared to how he approached the repairman before.
But he doesn't ask permit, like he doesn't say, officer, will you help me remove these? It's just like, it's almost like he's making fun of him for making too little money.
Yeah. And so it's interesting of like, is he getting his comeuppance for treating things badly? Is this sort of like if you hit the dog enough, the dog's going to come back and bite you? I don't know. It's like people aren't going to get him, so we're going to get him, sort of thing. However, having said all that, the last 5-10 minutes, probably 5 minutes, the final chase with the car is ace.
Yeah, except for the obvious driver.
I let that slide. That slide because it's TV in the 60s. It's low. There are 2 points in this I just thought were really well done. Like when it starts and the car sort of starts pulling away from him and he starts to panic and he runs and it comes after him, and then when he jumps over the fence and that thing comes through that fence, at a hell of a speed and hits those boxes, and he's no less than 4 or 5 feet away from that car and it flies through that fence.
Good old days when you could endanger actors' lives without dealing with OSHA.
That's right. Yeah, let's go back to those days. But it looks good. Like, considering this episode's been a bit messy, the finale of this is really creepy. It made me think of Maximum Overdrive. You mentioned Stephen King, and I also thought of Herbie. But like that thing where it's driving him into the car, and he's got nowhere to go, and then I believe it suggested that the car held him underwater to drown.
I'm confused by that. I don't think that's true. I think that that pool is a small pool, but the car isn't. Like that car couldn't cover the car. Yeah, the car's not in the water.
But when you see him, he goes in the pool backwards, and I love that because I love that shot as well, where it's like backlit and from the headlights, and he falls back. It looks really good. He goes in and he's sort of struggling underwater, and then you go to another point of view shot, and there is a set of headlights. Looks like they're going underwater. So I don't know. Is it got like its nose in and it's pushing him under? Like, I don't know, but it's creeped me out.
That's a good point. I interpreted those headlights as what he sees from underwater. Right. Yeah, and that he's looking up at the edge of the pool, and those headlights are just the car parked at the edge of the pool. But it is ambiguous. I mean, but I agree that whole scene, like the ending of just like the rise of the machines, is what's freaking awesome here.
It's really well done. And then obviously you get the medic and the police. And again, I love this with lackluster medics and police when they start reading off things that could have killed him. Because they highlight he was at the bottom of the pool. And they're like, yeah, bodies usually float, but he wasn't. He was at the bottom of the pool. It's like something held him down and he was full of water, which is creepy. Which is when I'm like, oh, something held him down. And the car's just sat on the thing. And then they're listing off like could have been a stroke, could have been a heart attack. And the medic's just like, could have been any of those.
I'm confused by the car. I mean, you're right about the ambiguity of sort of what held him down. I was just like, I don't know the answer to that. But why? I mean, it's cool. I love this whole business, but why did the car stay there? Like cover your tracks, dude. Every good Decepticon knows that.
Yeah, or is it one of those things of like they always come back to the scene? Is this like those episodes? Is this like those things you always see in every crime thriller where they go back to the scene and the hero detective sees the killer at the scene and then they flee?
The detective's
I don't know.
like, this is the third body we pulled out of this car, out of this pool this month, and you just hear the engine go.
I don't know.
I
agree. I agree. I would rather see that the car was sat back on his drive. That would have been creepier. Like it's actually returned. It returned home of its own volition. That would have been quite cool. But no, considering where this episode starts and how sort of like by halfway through, I was like, I'm not liking this. This is crap. The second half, like you say, with the when everything starts taunting him. You know, the things are the phone starts taunting, the TV starts taunting him, the razor starts coming after him, and then the car goes up and like, oh, that's really good.
Yeah, and I want the typewriter. The TV is great. I agree with you completely. And the typewriter is it's creepy. I love that typewriter. I wanted to type something more than just leave. Like, it's not clear why they're angry at him in the first place, but I guess it's like, this is our house now. Seems to be their only motivation. I want that typewriter, you know, like your threatening ghost letters typewriter. Why keep repeating? But it is very like The Shining. You know, there's a creepiness to it.
Yes, that was all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I thought the same thing. The only thing that struck me that was a bit of a problem, and sort of again, it's that logistical thing that sort of I often think about, was if they drive him away, who's going to pay the power bill?
Yeah.
So that was the only thing that's like a very minor thing. But no, this was a very 50-50 episode. It's very sort of interesting that way. Any final thoughts?
I think you're right that the real point is just that he's a dick, and that he's a dick to people and machines, and that the machines but the machines will take revenge. But I agree with you completely. You could cut this down to just the machines taking vengeance and lose all of the dickishness, and you really wouldn't lose anything.
No. But it's a relatively fun episode. Okay, there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patronage and your support. We always appreciate it. But on that sort of, we shall see you on the next episode.